Sumir, what's been the secret to the success of Sequoia, capital India? You seem to have all the home runs here in India. How could this be?
That's very kind of you, Rebecca. I'm not sure if we have any big secrets, but we look for big market opportunities, high quality entrepreneurs, and we've had the advantage of being in India for a long time, both as Sequoia as well as in our former avatar as Westbridge for the last 10 years. And I think one thing that definitely gives us an advantage is experience in the market, having seen it for a lot longer than our brethren most of the firms here are 2 or 3 years old.
Okay. Where do you see the next big home runs coming from India? I know your firm started out with outsourcing, you've moved into a lot of other areas. Where do you see the next big returns coming from? You have a huge portfolio of companies here in India now.
Well, always hard to predict exactly where the returns are going to come from, but there are a lot of very positive themes in India. There's huge growing demand among consumers as they gain rising incomes, and we see different types of consumer services really taking off. We have wonderful companies like SKS Microfinance and Cafe Coffee Day, Dr. Lal Bath Labs, all of which are taking advantage of these trends. And we also see a lot of opportunity continuing in companies that have healthcare services, provide healthcare services. We see a lot of opportunity in companies doing retail, infrastructure services, so it's pretty broad-based. There are many parts of the economy in India today that are growing at healthy growth rates.
So what's your opinion? Is the tiger going to beat the dragon in terms of returns or not?
I don't know enough about China to comment on that.
Okay, well, is India going to have a whole slew of big returns coming up in the next few years or not? Because it's been a little bit slower than China to develop in terms of...
The industry here is definitely much earlier than China, the venture industry that is. And are there going to be a whole slew of returns? I think it'll be very concentrated. My sense is they are going to be many firms that don't make money in India, because India is not an easy place to operate, and there are going to be some firms that do very well, and I think jury's out. I think the next 2 or 3 years are very important to see how that develops.
What's been your firm's biggest success so far here in India?
Well,
in looking at your whole portfolio,
it's hard to pick one. But I'd say we've had 4 or 5 very nice exits that we feel good about. Mostly in the outsourcing sector, because that's where we started. So companies like First Source and MarketRx, a number of others where we've invested early, built the companies to a pretty good scale, and then either taken them public or sold them. Now what we're seeing is, as we broaden outside of outsourcing 6 years ago, a lot of those companies are now hitting maturity stage where they're going public or likely to be sold. So we're seeing it sort of broad-based across sectors.
Okay. Samir, you recently moved to Mumbai after being in the Valley for many years. How's that transition going?
It's going well. It's wonderful to be here on the ground, enjoying Mumbai, and it's a city with a lot of energy. There's a lot of activity, a lot of entrepreneurship here, a lot of excitement about the opportunities in India. It's very heartening to see, very energizing, so can't complain, Rebecca.
Okay. How many deals do you expect to do this year?
We never have a set number. It really depends on how many good opportunities we find. We're not constrained by capital. We're constrained by finding interesting companies and entrepreneurs. We are a pretty steady investor, so even in the downturn last year, we were pretty active. We invest in up cycles, down cycles pretty steadily. And it's typically been, we've typically made 5 to 10 new investments a year. If I look at the last 2 or 3 years. So, but it's always hard to predict at the beginning of the year how many interesting things you find.
How many exits do you think you'll have this year?
Again, very tough to predict. We have a bunch of companies that are thinking about the public markets or sales, but until it's done, I hate to comment.